Okay.
Okay, and I am going to put myself on spotlight so you guys can see me.
Yay.
Yay, here I am, a big screen person. Okay, so clearly I have been working on different sorts of floral scenes, whether they were, the lighting seems to be a little intense. I'm just going to move that back just a little bit. I think that might be a little bit better. These guys look slightly washed out, but and the problem is with Zoom is it just does level, but I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so I've been working on I don't know, my mind's like all over the place. I work on a variety of things and they just kind of pile up. And then I go back to them and I figure out what it is I want to do. And I've had this past several months working on this whole color exploration. And one of the things really was to look at using high key palettes, a lot of light infused paintings. It kind of translated into my classes that I've been teaching too, including plein air. This one right here over my left shoulder started plein air this morning. And these cute little guys right here are going to be bumblebees. I mean, not that I'm going for a cute factor here, but to tell you the truth, while I was what happened to that? While I was standing there painting, the bees were just like all over that bush. And I was thinking, well, I mean, if the bees are there, I should actually put a few of them in. So I am going to be looking at different ways of doing bumblebees without like over describing, drawing, that sort of thing, just that flash as if they're moving. So those little dots there are just reference marks for me, and they're done with just a little bit of charcoal. I kind of have to do a few other things that I need to resolve on that. This one over here, it's this little theme I've got with this one-armed fairy that sits in our garden, and I kind of move her around and take photographs of her. So I am, working on a series of different paintings where I put her different places and then paint her. It's a great way of, if you have something that you're that really grabs your attention. This little fairy always did. I thought, why don't I try painting her, and not going for the cute factor, but I am trying to incorporate how to make her look as if there's, a bit of a glow about her. I did one last year with her too that I really liked a lot. Oh, here it is. And some of you may have seen that one, so I've got, a little bit of a glow on her, and it's just working with that muted colors and colors that have a little bit more light on them. So this leads me to today. And what I have been, besides working a little bit on this guy right here, I have the mountain laurel that I want to paint for this. And again, I do not want to paint as if I'm painting for a photograph so that it looks hyper realistic, but I do want to be able to capture the shapes of the mountain laurel and also the variations of the colors in the mountain laurel. So I'm just going to be doing some of my little practice on this big sheet of newsprint behind me, which is a wonderful way of pulling in things that you want to do that, I mean, I've not done a mountain laurel before. So, I mean, the flowers are really amazing, but there are a whole load of these crazy little cup type of flowers. And, I would drive myself crazy if I actually painted all that. So I've got to come up with a simplified way of capturing a mountain laurel without getting tied up in the photograph. And the way I do that is these big practice sessions that I guess is, for lack of another word, where I just play around with colors and shapes and trying to pull it together. So you know what? And I just, because I was chatting before I did the recording, I didn't even say welcome to everybody. I just got right in and started. So thank you everybody for showing up today. You know, it's nice to be inside with a little bit of a fan and whatever remnants of air conditioning make it down the hall to me, but much better than being outside. So this is a fun way of doing studio later in the day. It's, you know, it's really works out well, can take care of things earlier on. So anyway, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. This is the painting in question is this one right here. Okay, which is nowhere near done. It's really at the point where I have to do a lot of thinking. You know, I have to break up what is looking like a starburst there. I do want it to be, you know, I want it to feel as if the sun's coming through. Right now, it's a little bit too rigid. So I'll be pulling in some colors. And if everything works out well, after I do this, I'm going to put this up. I'm going to do a little bit of work on this, but you can see where I have blocked in the mountain laurel, you know, areas that are in shade, intermediate, and just little pops of reminders of where the light's coming through and it's hitting the top of them. So I'll come back to that after I practice the mountain laurel. So feel free, you guys know, you can just jump in and, you know, ask any questions. I'm just going to put this here so I can see it. Gonna get a glove on. The other thing that's really nice to do practice on, and I think I've mentioned that before, which I had one here just in case I needed it, is Bristol board. Because what's really nice about Bristol board, it's got a heavy weight. So if you're, you know, experimenting with doing gouache, acrylic ink, watercolor, acrylic, you know, anything at all like that, it can handle a liquid without buckling. And clearly it's not intended for pastel painting, so you can get lots of layers, but you can practice color interactions by just, you know, applying it on top of the wet kneading after it dries. Unless you want to do something like I was talking about earlier and try it with wet, then go for it. Okay, so as I was explaining this mountain laurel, and let me grab my charcoal here. This mountain laurel is like tons of these little shapes. Okay, I'll have to get a new stick of charcoal here. Oh, better yet, look at this one. You know what? And sometime I'm going to have to demo it. I have liquid charcoal. Has anyone tried liquid charcoal yet? I was telling somebody about it this morning. Charcoal in a tube. And you can, you know, use it straight out of the tube. You can use it with your fingers. You can use it with a brush. You can do whatever you want with it. What I've been doing is putting a little bit in on a tray that's got a little bit of a bow to it. So I've got the liquid nitrum charcoal here, and I've got a little bit of water there. And then I make variations of density of the, I don't know if density is the right word, of the liquid charcoal. So I can get it in various values. Just by playing.
Just don't mistake it for your toothpaste, right? If you take it out of your pocketbook.
Oh, yeah. I want to be careful about that. That would be a pain. How do you like this?
Betsy would
charcoal? Has somebody tried it? Has anyone tried it? Okay, I'm gonna, well, you know me and notes. I'm gonna write myself a note, but then, you know, it always helps to, I'll demo the liquid charcoal. I'll write myself a note. That would be fun. It's, I was using a lot, I use it more when I do figures. You know, I have that croquet account where you can, you know, endless number of nude models. And you can, you know, practice, you know, gestural drawing. You can practice more detailed figure drawing. And I've used it for that, and I love it because there's a really nice flow to the liquid nitrum. Now that I talk about it, you're all saying, "Oh, why doesn't she show it to us today?" Anyway, I'm gonna show you
know
my,
what? Betsy,
Yeah.
thanks. Could you just clarify? I'm not quite sure I caught it.
I think they pronounce it croquet. I would have
Okay.
pronounced it crocus because that's the way it's spelled,
Okay,
CROQUIS. And I will put that in the follow-up. I'll write that down too. And it's
Great.
great. And it
Thank you.
was something really, I forgot what it was. It was something really inexpensive. Less than $10 for the year or something like that. To just have these stockpiles. And some of them are still models, and some of them
Yeah.
are actual models that are holding a pose from, 30 seconds to, a minute to 5 minutes. And, some of them are longer. And if anyone's a sculptor, they also have models that are on a rotating base. So you're getting a full 360 of the model.
wow.
But it's worth looking at, and I will put it in the follow-up.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, this guy's gonna fly around a little, so let me put this right here. I have a huge, gigantic black board behind here, which works out really well for tacking things too when I'm working. That it's so much easier than tape. Okay, I'm gonna start with this guy right here. Hang on a second, breaking it. Brand new, let's rub it. Okay, I'm getting rough shape here. Okay, background is dark. Coming in. Yeah, I can do this. It's not going to be this big in my painting, clearly, but what a great way to practice. Get this in here. Okay, I'm going to take that smear. That's the background. I'm going to do a little bit of this for my background.
I think. Oh. I have a question, Betsy.
Yeah, yes.
You do something like this and you haven't done it before. Do you ever kind of look out to another artist like I can't pronounce her last name, Julia
Oh, yeah, it's like LIEC.
yeah, someone who does like a ton of flowers to see if you can find one, or are you confident enough kind of and know you because that's what I tend to do. Like I'm more of a beginner, so I'll.
And that's a really nice way of seeing how artists have attacked something that you're working on and you're not really sure how to go about it. I typically don't, and part of that is just because it's one way somebody does it doesn't necessarily mean that's the way that I'm gonna do it. But I have certainly, there's a few artists that I do like looking at their artwork because I certainly am inspired by what they do. I'm trying to make a cup there, see that? This is so much easier to do big to start with, so there's these lovely cups, but that is a real, just a second, I would need,
one of my goals this summer is to learn how to do clouds. And, I look at other people's clouds and I don't know if you know Robin Thornhill. I saw her clouds the other day and I go, oh, that looks kind of like my style. So I'm going to kind of study her clouds.
right, yeah, that's the way to do it, absolutely.
Some clouds, I like them, but I know that's not my style.
Right. Like, someone who works very detailed and photographic, I mean, that might give me a great, I'm gonna use an eraser now. I like these kneaded erasers. I'm just gonna get a rough idea for the light hitting some of these guys. Somebody might want to tell me what I was just saying. I got distracted by myself. What was I saying? I really don't.
It was about looking at other people's paintings
Right.
that fit your style.
Yeah.
And you said new artist is kind of like a new artist, and then and then you veered off.
Okay. Well, no, thanks for helping, but it didn't.
That's fine.
It didn't. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at how these cups appear based on a light area against a dark area. So, you know, I'm seeing like the edges of this come up, and just double checking. So the double, and then the center is super dark on these guys. So I'm just going to give a little bit.
Betsy, you're using charcoal, right?
Yes, I
Raw
am.
Charcoal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a big
What is
fat,
that, Betsy? Oh,
This-
okay.
yeah, it's a big fat stick of charcoal. I don't know what I did with the packaging, but it's really nice because if you're using the typical vine charcoal,
Yeah.
you know, it's just so small that you can I can very easily start to fiddle. And what I want to do is practice on doing some really big ones. And with this big piece of charcoal here, I'm able to get in here and create these shapes. There's these lovely edges to them. And it's really a matter of seeing where some of them, it's like the internal part of it. Some of them, the edges, it's on. This is why I like working with charcoal. It's almost like you draw with the eraser. So I can, and then the center back in here, it's like it's tempting to make it light back there, but it's not. So this is where I need to come in. And this is and make this area darker there so that that is actually being hidden from the light.
I think
Okay.
that's one of the things. The other day, Karen Israel had a really nice vase of roses she did. She's good at
Yeah.
flowers too. So
Yes, yes,
lately,
yeah, yes.
I've been turning stuff into black and white, and what I noticed is like, and this is true of what you're working on, how many value shifts there are, especially in something like a rose where you have all those petals. And
Yes.
in order, you know, it was really fascinating to see, you know, which, you know, how many, which is what you're trying to do now. You have to have lots of value shifts with flowers that are, you know, closer up.
Yes, no, correct. And the value shift, and you guys know, you know, that take classes from me know, it's all about the values. It's about shapes. It's not about, like, I'm trying not to think petal. Well, actually, they're cups. They're these lovely little cups. You know what they remind me of is, you know, those lovely, I think the shell is called a limpet. You know, we see them on the Cape a lot. They look like they could be like a little hat. Well, the flower is like an inverted one. So you get a nice little cup, which if you were going to draw this, you could get carried away trying to draw all the little facets of every single one of these. And what I want to do is I'm going to be drawing it on this sheet of paper, probably about a quarter of the size of this. So by drawing large, okay, so I have some dark areas here. Well, I like this big one. I'm a little disappointed in the fact that it's not coming quite as dark as my nice vine charcoal. So that part is a little bit of a, okay, and then let's just come down. Okay, and then these guys. So I'm feeling like the clusters, I'm getting a little bit more feel, because partly doing something like this is that I'm getting a feel for the way the clusters work. Okay, so there, once I've done that, now I'm going to just kind of come around and I'm going to draw like just this loose free. I mean, you could think of it as a contour drawing. Typically when I, you know, draw contour, I'm really doing it far more as blind contour, where you're actually looking at your paper. That in this area here, it's like the shapes are all coming in and out. But like there's that center right there, coming up, center. And it's just to getting a feel for an object that I don't know means I can focus on its shapes and its lines and the way it's all connected. Like here's more of a cup here, and then the underneath part without getting all. Okay, so I'm going to come in. I'm going to put a little bit of darks in here. That was a partial scent. It's funny, when I was doing this for class the other day, I said, I don't know if I'm going to do this for the open studio, because it's taking so much brain power paying attention to what I'm doing. So here I am doing it. So if I lose my train of thought, okay, I got a little variety. Okay, so there, I got this nice little flow here. Got these nice big stalks that come up. Okay, he's going behind cups. He's cups sideways, cups this way. It's going sideways. We've got lots of leaves in here. And look at these lovely lit ones. I've moved over here now. And I'm just coming around.
I would think with this flower, Betsy, that you have to make distinctions so it doesn't end up looking like a hydrangea.
Well, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because truthfully,
It
when I
has
was doing
hydrangea
this, it's
quality,
not
but
far off,
Yeah.
the way a hydrangea would
Difference
look.
is it has that trumpety, cuppy thing going.
Yes,
But if you were
exactly.
careful, you could end up with someone be like, "Oh, I love your hydrangea," and then you're like,
Exactly, exactly. Why thank, and then that's when you say, why, thank you. If they think it's a hydrangea, why burst their bubble? There we go. Okay, so. Yeah, I like these little, see, this is the way I'm gonna paint it. This is the way that it's just kind of making me. These guys are, and they come out and over and up. Leaves kind of over. Okay. And then there's the leaves underneath. Yeah, look at that, not really super dark. Of course, I was all wrapped up working on this guy that I forgot to look for my vine. Oh, here's some vine charcoal. So, okay, so let's see what the difference is with the vine charcoal. Okay, see this little stroke here? You know, you're just gonna wind up. I mean, if you're the sort that like the, you know, getting in there and doing like a little fiddly lines like that, then go for it. Okay. Yeah, it actually, guess what? It's a little bit darker, but it's not all that much darker than this down here. Look at that. So between the two of them, the vine is slightly darker, but not as much as I was actually imagining. This is going to be really important when I do it because the background is darker. And then the little lip edges that are picking up the light. Okay, and they almost connect. They are very pretty. Are people familiar with mountain laurels? I know some of you are because we were talking about them in class. But this guy's in a little bit of shade back there, so I'm just going to add him. He's coming up. A lot of the light sources for this is like coming right like that. The beam that's through it. Okay, I'm going to take this one down for a minute. Okay, now, I can't lose my notes that I wrote to remind myself about those two things. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I've got this here to look at. I'm going to fold it. And I want to look at this right there. And I have pulled out some colors that I thought I would like to use with and okay, I'm fitting this all the way down. So let me just go like that for a second. Yes, just so I know what's in the screen and make sure not to stab through my painting. Okay, so let's see, if I take, wow, look at how dark this guy is. Okay. I'm just gonna get him in really loose here. Okay, this newsprint is not going to do a fabulous job with pastel, but it'll be enough for me to be able to play around with color. Okay, I've got I'm gonna do the centers with this guy. I just get some of these loose little shapes in here. There's really a very pretty blue that's showing up. Now, what I will say is, I'm doing this from here, but the reality of it is the photo image will be better when I am doing it from my laptop or my iPad. So that then I have a backlit image, and this is showing up a little darker than it is in real life. Unfortunately, if I'd been smart, I would have painted this when the flowers were out, but I didn't. They're all dead now. Okay, so I'm just gonna get this right in here and make it slightly lighter than just block off roughly where I see some of them. And I'm seeing just bottoms here. Those are those little cups. And I'm gonna bring this down just a little bit. So those little colors. So I've got all these cups. Some of them are sideways. Some of them are pointing down. This guy's pointing directly at me. This guy's pointing directly at me. And then I have some that are obscured and other ones that are coming out. So I'm just gonna go like that and a little bit down there. Okay, a little bit of it. So those colors so far I'm pleased with. Let me put this here so you can see what color that one is. Okay, I had this color here for this because there's a little bluish cast to it. I've got this here. Yes, I know I should take the wrapper off. It's just new. There's something about when Diane Townsend, I have one of hers and it's new, I kind of don't take the wrapper off right away, which I should. But you know, with this shape of a stick, you're not as likely to use it like a crayon and color in just because it's, you know, this big chunky little size. So it's not as bad. And then I did have variations of lights that I have. There's a little warmth to it. A little bit of a cool green, and this one here is a cool blue. So I've got a variety of super lights. Before I go too far, let's try this. I'm going to come in, I'm going to carve out behind. Got that one. Okay, and I'm going to carve out up here, coming up. That's that top where it's going to be lit. Carve out, carve around. And then there actually is one that is really hanging low here. So I'm just going to add that there and come around. So by carving out like that, you know, it kind of gives me an idea of how that edge of the actual ball of flowers looks. Okay, let's throw in some of this. Okay, so this is not my latest one, that's that there. So I'm gonna get just some of these areas that are super lit. Lovely little edges here, edges there. And it's coming over on this side too. And I think values here. Let's go to this guy right here. What I do tend to do, which I know not all pastelists do, is I typically put in my darkest and I put in my lightest and I work in between. And that's how I'm getting these shapes here, because I know this guy has a lot of light coming around here. So if anyone has any questions,
Looks like that.
feel free, ask. This
Betsy,
is-
Betsy, the paper you're using is that pastel paper?
No, I'm just doing, hi Jenny.
Hi.
I'm just doing a color study and I'm just doing it on newsprint and I'm doing it really
Oh.
big. So that, I know you'd said you might be coming in late, so I'm just filling you in.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so it's
It's
just
really
so
pretty.
so I can
It's
get
pretty.
a,
The
sorry.
newsprint is really pretty.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I like working on newsprint, it's, I don't actually do paintings, that I wind up, framing, but I do a lot of studies, big ones. Okay, so now I'm gonna come and see, this is the part, this color to me feels as though it's going to be too dark for the actual painting, because this color here is darker than what's even there. So this guy's like a goner. I'm not going to use him. I don't, he's way too dark, way too dark. So let's try this guy. And he's pretty dark too. This guy's a blue. Now they're not really blue. So hang on, let's have a look, see what we got going here. Looking for something that's really, oh, wait a second, here's a reddish violet. Oh my gosh, they're all too dark. Okay. Oh, let's try this guy. Okay, there we go. Let's try this. Okay. Okay, another one that sometimes I don't take wrappers off of. This is a schminky. So let me just unwrap it so I can get the sides, because I don't want to color it like it's a crayon. Okay, so this is good. That dark is too dark that's in there. So this color is, yes.
In your write-up that you do after we're done, could you list the names of the pastels that you're using?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so this one to me feels as though it's getting these edges a little bit better here. All righty, coming in with a lighter. Okay, so I've used this guy. I've not used, yes, I used this guy. Now I am using this one. I have this lovely little pinkish look to them. So I think that pinkish look, there's all these lines that are in them too. And I'm hoping that what happens is that the lines appear when this guy's really dark. When I wind up there, that's just enough of a burst in the center.
Betsy, I just wanted to mention that Dakota Pastels has a list where they order pastels from the least soft to the most soft.
Yes,
So
I
let's say
have.
schminky. It's good to look in the list and see where that falls, because if you already own a lot of pastels that are like that degree of softness, even if you love their colors, it's not a great investment. Like I own a lot of blue earths and they're insanely soft and I like them, but now I'm, trying to fill in other, because that, I think to me, the degree of softness or hardness, or in the case of Diane Townsend, she actually has a ground in her pastel.
Yeah, some of them,
Probably-
it's the tirage.
Probably makes more of a difference in your work than, kind of like the color.
Yes, and and that's a handy list to have. One thing that I will say about the list, what you do have to consider is the fact everyone uses a different type of pressure when they're painting. So I used to use a very heavy stroke, and I tend to use a stroke that's much softer now. Not necessarily for this, because I'm working on newsprint, but the pressure of your stroke can also aid in a very soft pastel light stroke, you're not going to put it down as heavy. A harder pastel, you're putting down a little heavier. So you can kind of adjust it by the type of stroke that you use too. Okay, so this is going to be, I really like this color on there because that's going to pick it up. And then
Is that the titanium, is that titanium 128?
no, actually, this is the Diane Townsend number 20 Ultra Blue. It's a tirage.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. It
Yes,
looks like
yes, I
from
know,
my-
because I always
on
tout that type, that Diane Townsend number 10 being the whitest white ever. So.
I just bought the titanium 128, you know, because I'm going to Dawn Emerson's workshop and
Oh,
she
yeah,
likes
yeah,
that
yeah.
one. I actually really like that pastel.
Yeah, I have to get on and look at the, what did I do with it? I have to get on and look at the, this red might work. Okay, that red's gonna look nice on top of those. Okay, I'm losing my tooth. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just looking at whether this color is gonna go on there. So this one right here is gonna be really nice. And see, I can use more of it down here where these guys are more, and look at that guy. He's like really in the shade. There's a level of intensity in terms of, you know, it's a pure sort of red, but yeah, this will work out really good. Yes, I like that. Okay, so I do like these colors, and there's this lovely light blue in here, and this was that looks more like a bluish green. I don't want a bluish green. I want a blue. No, it's a little too dark, but let's see what it looks like on here. Yeah, well, not too dark. So that kind of cup. Okay. So that's what I want to avoid doing, is do all these little lines around it. So I'm going to have to, when I paint, decide where is the light falling in there. So this guy will work. So I'm just going to circle him too. And for some of these shadows, I've got this violet, but I'm kind of thinking same value, similar value, something that's a little bluer. Test the value. There's the color I was using. Blue next to it, squint my eyes. This one's very ever so slightly darker, but they're close enough in value that'll work. Similar values can take and move something that is looking flat to something feeling as if it's got more dimension, and also you've got that lovely play in there. So this'll be really nice. Some of these darks down here, let me circle that guy. I'm going to try, again, this guy, he's too dark. I keep wanting to throw in some darks. I'm not actually sure why. I've got a lot of this. Look at this guy. That's nice, but he's a little bit too blue. I don't want anything that blue. I want something that's a little more muted, but muted, not light, muted, dark. Ooh, let's try this. Oh, he's probably too dark. Yeah, it's too dark. Okay, if I put it down soft, let's see what happens if I put it. Okay, that's what I mean by pressure. Look at that. If I put it down really, really soft, then the colors that are underneath will do some of the work, and I'm not putting it down as dark, because that's what I want. I wanted a neutral, not neutral, excuse me, a muted dark value blue. So that'll work in very nice around some of the cups here, where they're especially down here. Lights here, so this end here is going to be darker. Yes. Yeah, and I'm seeing those guys start to show up. So what I'm going to do, well, I don't know what I did with my, oh yes, just a second. I'm just going to take a photo of it. So I have this, and I will put it.
Betsy, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So when you're painting a flower that is ball shaped, is this, I'm gonna ask you if this is a rule as opposed to a law.
Oh, yes, we had that conversation.
So more detail in the like lower part to midsection, and then less detail, a little fuzzier, that's probably not the right word, along the top. Does that, to make it look more like a ball, is that kind of like a rule?
You know, it varies from the plants, and I don't do a lot of flowers, but I think what you're referring to are hard edges and soft edges where we wind up.
Yeah, I
seeing
guess, yeah.
a distinct edge. Like there's some of these,
Yeah.
where they're gonna be very distinct because of the color that this is, and even though it's in a shaded area, because it's got a very light lip to the flower, I'm going to be able to see the edges. So typically what I do with flowers, let's look at these guys right here, okay? I get them on like this, and then I just go in and I add a little bit more distinction in just a few areas. So the most important part for that was identifying the center, because they were all facing me, but then also cutting in with the green, and getting a little bit more in certain areas, a real obvious hard edge. These flowers not as much, because they weren't as important as those flowers there. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying, one, it depends on the flowers. Two, it depends on your light source, because the light source is intensifying these areas here. So those are the ones that I'm going to have a little bit more detail on, just because the light's hitting it. There's so much shadowing down in here. And again, this photo is a little too dark. Not all the detail. I won't be painting all that detail. I'll have some down in the shaded areas. You know, and part of that for me is trying to give that feeling of, if something is in the shadows or in a shady area, in real life, we don't see as much of the details, you know, of those objects. So that kind of exaggerates being in the shade, being in the shadows. You know, I can't actually see everything that's there. The area that's lit, I can see lights falling on it. You know, I can add a darker color behind it, and I have a little bit more detail to the shapes. Did that answer your question? Kind of.
Yes, and it also told me the right term to use.
Oh.
Hard edge versus soft edge.
It seemed as though
That's what I
what
meant.
it seemed as though that's what you were referring to when you were.
That's where I was going. Betsy.
Yeah. You know, and not far off. I think it was the soft and hard edges that we were talking about when class was doing this one right here, or the Tuesday class. Like I said, this one's got a little bit ways to go, and you know, we're not going to. I need to get in here. I really want that to feel warm, so I'm going to be getting some more warm colors up in this tree. I put this on fairly lightly just to block things in. So this is still more or less in the blocking in stage. So I'm going to translate some of what I did, hopefully successfully, onto this painting. Yes.
I'm sorry I didn't ask before you took down the flower sketching, but these mountain laurels, I love them.
They are.
And they not only have that amazing shape, but they have, like, they're kind of bicolored with little, you know, rings of color around the edges and little flecks of color. And are you eventually going to think about that, or will you just continue to focus on value?
No,
Because of course, as a, you know, an amateur neophyte, when I try to draw a flower, I keep getting distracted by its color markings.
Yes, And this one has amazing color markings. I'm just
Yes,
going to get the basics down from what I showed you. That
Yeah.
sort of detail, following on what Mary Ann just asked, some of that detail I'm going to do afterwards, and that's where I'm going to do a little bit more with the, and there's also like these little
Yeah.
blue fronds that come out of them too. That's all what I would consider, and people saw that yesterday when I was doing, or Tuesday when I was doing this, is there's certain things that it's so much concentration. I mean, I just kind of get lost in what I'm doing. I'll do that when I don't have
later, but
I
but much
don't have a
later.
camera on me.
And like maybe just a little bit of that. Is that
Yes.
the idea?
Just
Yeah.
a little, and I'll
Yeah.
make a decision on that. See, I can see my color patterns right here. So I can make a decision on that. Okay, I've got the black and white one right there. The ceiling fan's kind of blowing things around a little bit. Just hang on just a second. Let me put that there. There we go. Okay. Now you got to remember, these guys are really small. So hang on before I go too far. We've got the palette right here that I was using for this. I am just going to start bringing in some of the green that is around this. And this guy's coming down, and he is a little green there. And then there's some green that's coming up on this side. I'm still doing this one. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just, this is just a close up, just so you can see it. And he's starting to look a little bit too much like a ball, but that'll get broken up. Bring that down, that comes down. While I'm at it, I'm just gonna come a little bit around this guy here, and then there's some branches and things, so I'll figure them out later. This guy's super lit right there. Okay, so I decided on that darkish violet. So I'm gonna test that guy out there. I'm gonna get just, I'm doing negative. I'm carving out the shapes of some of them with that. So I'm just coming in. And this guy's coming down here, carving out the edges there, carving out a little bit of the edge there. I used this here. Let me test that right there. Okay, and right there. I'm really, this carving out method does stop you from like drawing around, because I'm not interested in drawing around this flower. I want the flower to appear because of the contrast there. And he's got right in here, there's all those lovely, oh, they're like these starbursts. They are the coolest little things. So those I'm gonna have to figure out later. And then I had this darker red. I'm trying to do this dark here. So this guy's slightly on its side. So I'm gonna get the red in. And then I'll break up that red with some of the other colors. So this is the inside that's hanging down.
Betsy, I have something I have to do at 6, so I'm gonna log off, but thank you. I learned-
Okay, nice having you here, Lisa.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. And there's that. Okay, this guy's hanging down just a little bit. I'm just gonna get a little bit over there. I don't really want it to look too much like a circle, and at the moment it is, so I am gonna cut away so that some of these shapes are a little bit out of that circle zone. And then this is lit, but there's edges, so I'm gonna have that one cuppy flower come up right there. And then we had some in the shadows, and I believe I'm back to using this color. So I'm going to put a little bit of shadows underneath this guy right here. I'm going to come in here around. And this guy, this is where I'm going to try to get some of that internal petal design. And even though it's not blue, if I don't like the way that looks later, I can go over it. But right now, there's this lovely, hang on, let's get this. There's this lovely light area that's cupping underneath. Yep, I got that there. Right here and right there. But I can't say this is going to be like a total success, but I'm feeling like I'm getting the shapes. Okay, this is that blue. Let me double check it. It's a little bit brighter than this color right here. So what I'm looking at right now is this violet and the blue, and the violet's definitely darker. So I'm going to put the violet down first. I'm going to put that underneath these guys. Underneath here, strokes coming up. And then there's little bits of light hitting right here. Never really do the, look at that nice stroke that makes. Coming around. Not putting my lightest light, and light's coming through this guy, so it's actually hitting the tops of some of these that are down here. So I'm going to put that right there. This guy's a little bit lighter. So let's get him. Okay, super, super light. Feeling like that's it, and then a little bit more over here. This is too dark. This is not dark enough in here, so I'm coming back in with this violet and coming around, knocking out some of the light that's in here because I've got too much. There's shadow underneath this guy here, so I'm going to take the same violet and do a really light skim, and that light skim should break that up a little bit. Now, this here, I'm going to come in, I'm going to carve out a little bit. I can always add the light back in there if I want, because there is light that's coming down. But for the sake of being able to see this, I am going to bring in some of these greens around the outside edge. And there's this little peachy. Now, this is where I'm going to try to come in and add some of those edges here. They're not actually a pink color, but this is kind of smearing it. So I'm trying to get this like this little soft edge by taking this harder. I think this is a Great American, a little piece of a Great American, which I love Great Americans, but it's harder than the Diane Townsend. So I'm kind of doing a smear or a blend. And I want these guys to have some lip to them, but I don't want them as bright. I don't know how much it's actually looking like a mountain laurel, but let's see. Was that my latest one? Hang on. No, I'm not using that guy. I am using the blue. That's it. Yes. Let's come around the top here. Okay, trying to make it a little, and this is that light's really hitting here. These guys are really super lit. Edges here. Light's coming through. Light's coming through. I have to be careful. I don't want it too light down there, so I'm going to go back to this. Oh, too dark. Come back to this blue. Yeah, look at that. See, you could so easily start to outline there. I don't want to outline because that outline's not going to look right. Okay, so I'm going to just pat the side of this I don't want to lose the stroke, but I want it to feel soft. So this, just a little bit of it comes off and it softens it. Okay, I'm coming in with that dark, and this is how I'm going to get some of these shapes. Remember, I came in with that dark bluish shape, so I'm gonna hope that I get a little bit of the shape of these petals where there's little dark spots in between. Oop, too much, too much. And some of these areas are a little bit darker. And to soften those, like this guy here wound up way too big, so I am just going to just soften that edge up. Soften this edge up with the light. Soften this up. Not using the same one there because these guys are more in the shadow, so I'll soften that up, just bringing it in, bringing that down. Okay, it's not ideal, but I'm almost there, and it could pass for a hydrangea. So what I need to do is get in with some of my reds and get that real distinct edge that's coming out in the middle of some of these guys where they make where the cup is. So I'll just do a little bit of that in a few spots, not all the way around. And then what I'll do is, boy, this is a lot of pressure, you guys, you know. Okay, let's see.
I think it's looking good.
Well, thank you, Marge. Can I get, okay, and those little, and truthfully, I would probably not add any final last minute details to this until I did all of them using this combination of colors. This one I chose to do for the demo because it had an area that was in shade and it had the lid area. And then I also want to look at the image on my computer so that I can wind up seeing if there are areas that because I know this is too dark, that I misinterpreted. I did make them a little lighter, but the image on the computer backlit will help me with that part. So I am going to leave that, but before I go, I'm going to just come in with this. And this guy here, the light's coming in here. I'm just going to soften that. And we'll get a little bit of a lighter green just on that side, just because we've got light falling there. And then over here, I have a box that's labeled. I have boxes all over the place that are labeled for the different paintings. And I'm just gonna kind of break this up here. So that there. Oh, you know what's really neat? I'm going to do this right now just so you can see it. There is this lovely bit of light that's on this one right there. And that is going to make a difference to this guy being lit. So I'm just going to put those little markers there for myself. And I do feel as if this guy needs to be dropped a little bit. I feel like he's a little bit, see, what did I say? I was only going to do one, and here I go. I'm working on the one underneath it. Let's bring that. Okay, so he's not a circle anymore. That's great. The little detail thing of getting in a center and adding some of the lines, this is when I will do that after I've done all of these and decide, because I don't want them all to have the same amount of detail. If they all have the same amount of detail, then none of them are important. So I'm assuming it's going to be this guy, but who knows? Sometimes a painting takes a nice little detour that I don't expect. And then, if I've gone and spent all that time on one of the flower balls And I really need to concentrate someplace else on the detail. I don't know that. So I worked the whole painting, got to get the darks back in here. Got to get some of these areas back in here a little bit darker. So I've got some nice contrast happening here. So I'll be doing that. There's a lot of light coming through here. And I have these really, I don't know, I might kick myself later, but I really wanted to get in with some of these lovely oranges up here and just kind of break up. So I'll just put a few of them in so you can see what I'm going to be doing. Just break that up back there. Because this is a little bit too big there, and I can just go over at him. And then I had this really, okay, this guy, let me double check it here. I had this really amazing yellow. So kind of thinking of where the light is hitting and just bringing some of that in. So just trying to like jazz up the colors a little bit there, give it a little edge. And a lot of times there's this lovely bluish glow around, and this is like a dull light value blue that I'm going to put in there to, oops, oh well, that'll go next to like this little green. So there's almost like a little color interaction that's happening between the color I threw on the ground and in there. So I've got that in there to work. And see, just knocking down the size of that circle there is looking better already. So any questions on that? Hopefully seeing that, quick, large way, just get a large sheet of, a pad of this newsprint. It really doesn't cost that much, so you can just play around really big. So rather than trying to mess around and getting the colors right on something that is, 2 by 3 inches maybe, I was able to do a nice big one, play with the colors, get in there. Bigger strokes, littler strokes can make you fiddle. Larger strokes, do the practice with the larger strokes and then pare it down to your object. So whether you're doing, I did not do it for this one here or the plein air here, but I knew that this mountain laurel was going to be challenging. And now that somebody did also mention that it looks so much like a hydrangea, the two flowers are very similar. I feel like I want to go look at hydrangeas, which I have to practice on. I'm supposed to be painting hydrangeas in a couple of weeks at the Hydrangea Festival, which I love doing. They are like so much fun. Their petals aren't quite, these are real cups. I don't feel as if the hydrangea are that same way. They they are, but these are cup. Like I said, like one of my little fairies could wear it as a hat. There you go. That's a good way to describe the shape it looks like. Yep.
I can't remember, but I'm from Connecticut and the laurel is the state flower. So we were always focused on them. And my mother grew up in the yard and they're fascinating. I would never try to paint them. They're so complicated.
They are.
As I recall, they have 8 sides. It's like a very geometric shape.
It is, which is why the trick for me is going to be to try to create the feel of them without getting all tied up in making these multi-side. Yeah, I think it is.
Well, you couldn't do every one, but if you do enough as a highlight, I think it'll be very clear that it's not a hydrangea, because hydrangea has a different petal. This has an actual structural, it's almost like a little beehive, the structure of a beehive.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Yep.
Yeah. And when you started to get it there in a couple of the areas in the big drawing, I thought, bingo, you've got it. It's much more ambitious than anything I would ever try. So good for you. And I think it's lovely.
and here, let me just record myself trying to do it, and we'll hope that in the end it turns out. but.
You'll do
I
it.
mean,
You'll get it.
what's there to
Yeah.
lose? I mean, I can give it a go. And like I said, I think next year I would have presence of mind to actually paint them when they were in full bloom. I mean, I took tons of photographs, it just a shame I didn't actually think to go out and paint them. So I'll work on the shape of them. I'll work on which ones to actually highlight with the detail of the shape. I'm going to, as Nancy mentioned, get in some detail enough to show that they are a mountain laurel to give some distinction there, but I'm not going to do detail of all of them. And the rest of the painting, I'm just going to kind of play around with the color and the light and knock down the spotlight effect a little bit. That's just my marker so that I can see it. Play with soften hard edges of, the trees in the background, lots of soft edges where they're disappearing. Lost edges, some people refer to them as, and little harder edges on the plants that are in the foreground. And I really like the idea of the shaded area. I love doing the shaded areas of flowers because they're just a totally different color. They're really, I see a lot of blue and violet in these guys. So well, thank you guys. I'm gonna
Wow, thank
take you
you.
guys.
Thank you, Betsy.
This
You
was
are a-
super helpful. Thank you.
are fab.
Oh,
Thanks,
well, I'm
Betsy.
Massive.
glad you
Wonderful.
enjoyed that.
Thank you for letting us in on your process. And also your sense of humor is.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, gotta have a sense of humor, don't you? I'm gonna, take myself off spotlight for a minute. I'm going to put it on gallery view. There we go. Okay, so I will get this finished. I probably won't get it finished before I post the video of this, but you will see it at some point. This guy's nearly done. So I can concentrate on this one right here. And it's a nice time to be painting flowers. Oh, what'd you say, Mary Lou?
These beautiful colors. It's just all in back of you. They're beautiful. The
Oh.
one with the fairy sitting on the pot and the plenty of them. Colors are just magnificent.
Oh, well, we all know that I like color. So yes, that's it. Get as much variations and combinations, and what it is that I think I've used this term in class before. What I really like is that playfulness that happens between colors. Either they're getting along or they're not. Some of them are making another color look better. Other colors, they recede into the background. It's just like so much fun to just.
It really is wonderful seeing them clustered together too. They kind of belong together. It's just beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I want them all hanging on my wall.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, there's a hint.
It can be arranged.
Oh, geez. So, well, as always, it's a great way to start the month off. So thank you guys for, showing up. And I will see some of you before then. Otherwise, believe it or not, we're going to say the beginning of August then. So August 1st.
Wow.
I don't even know what day it falls on. And I hadn't actually even thought if, oh no, that's right. It's not the first. What am I talking about? It's the first Thursday of the month. It's just today happens to be the first and the Thursday. So yeah, that was great. Thank you, everybody. Okay. We'll see some of you soon.
Bye.
Others
Okay,
not so much.
Betsy.
Okay,
Hopefully.
bye.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.